All right, thanks again, everyone, for being here. Like I said, we're going to talk about accounting and invoicing best practices for CSA and our food sales program. And wanted to welcome Jeannie here tonight, who's joining us. Jeannie Schulte, who's waving right now on screen, is the main accountant for the food group. And she's the person we send all of your invoices to for payment approval throughout the season. So thanks for being here, Jeannie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jeannie Schulte. I am the controller at the food group, like Matt said, the main accounting person. And I'm happy and excited to meet you all and to be working with you.
Thanks, Jeannie. And since Jeannie is maybe meeting most of you for the first time in this virtual format, I thought we could go around and do brief intros. So if you're a farmer who's joining us on the call, please turn on your video for a second, share your name and either how long you've been farming or what year you're in the program at Big River Farms. And when you're done, if you can pass it to somebody else, we can just keep things rolling smoothly. So I'll start with Veda, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Veda Reddy and I'm a first-year farmer at Big River Farm. I've had some experience earlier, but this will be the year where I'll really focus on farming. Thank you. And next, Whitney.
Hi, everyone. Whitney here. I am a first-year farmer at Big River Farm, and I think that's it. Happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thanks, Whitney. Do you want to pass it to somebody?
Sure, I will pass it to Kazua.
Hi everyone, my name is Kazua Berry. I am the program manager at Big River Farms, and I'm also a farmer there with my husband Michael, who is at work right now, so he cannot join us. But Jeannie, we are so happy that you are doing this with us and for us, and it's great for our farmers to meet you. And I'm excited to hear what farmers have their feedback on just this whole process too. So happy to be here. Oh, and Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen, and I run Tutti Fruities at Big River Farms. I've been there for 4 years, and Jeannie, nice to see you, because I know we've been interacting over the years and I've never met you before, so this is nice. Let's see. We've got Jacob.
Hi, my name is Jacob Daniel, and I farmed at Big Rivers twice. This is my third year. Nice to meet you. And I'm driving now, so can somebody pass to the next person, please?
Thanks, Jacob.
Hey,
We're losing your connection, Jacob. You're cutting in and out here.
oh, okay. I am driving now. I I am driving, so the net will be bad.
Yeah, all good. Focus on driving. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you joining us while you're
Okay.
heading home. How about Eleanor and Pierce? You want to go next?
You're on
We
mute.
can see you, Eleanor, but you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm Eleanor, and Pierce, my husband, runs Strong Heart Farms with me at Big River. This is our second season here, and we're really excited for the season. I'll pass it off to Dee.
You're muted.
Hey guys, this is B. My mom's not here. I'm here with my husband as well too. But at the farm, this is our second year now. Excited to meet you, and so looking forward to learn more from you and build a better relationship. So that way, we can communicate more in the future. Okay, and I'll pass it on. Let me see who's all on. I don't even have any. Khalid.
Yeah, hi. Can you guys hear me, see me?
Yep, we can hear you and see you. Hi, Khalid.
Yeah, Khalid Al Hassan with the Sudanese farming group. This will be my first year farming at Big River Farms. And I'm excited and looking forward and appreciate all the help and the flexibility from you guys.
Great, thanks. Good to meet you virtually and
Yeah,
see you, Khalid.
Yeah.
I've seen your name floating around, but I know we haven't talked yet, so good to see you.
Yep, yeah, we exchanged a couple emails, and I appreciate your flexibility with the upcoming trainings. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and I can pass it on to Haytham from my group.
My name is Haytham Ibrahim. I'm also part of the Sudanese community group, and excited to start farming our first year, as Khalid mentioned, in the New Hope facility. Let's see if I can pass it to somebody else.
Yeah, hi, this is Mark Hussein, a member of Sudanese Farm Group, also first year farmer. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here, everybody. Let's see, is there anybody else that we have missed and who hasn't introduced themselves yet? I know we have Andres here. I don't see Mario here, so I'm not sure if we'll need Spanish interpretation or not. But if anyone else wants to introduce themselves, if we missed you by accident, go for it.
Hi, Matt. Yeah, I was hoping to get some participation today, but I haven't seen Mario or Fee but I'll just hold it for a few minutes. My name is Andres, and I'm a Spanish interpreter.
Thanks, Andres.
Thank you.
Cool. Is there anybody else that we
Did
missed?
Nathaniel go?
Oh, good call. Yeah. Nathaniel, do you want to say hey?
I'm Nathaniel with Bethel Resuscitation Center, Bethel Empowerment Farm Adventure. This is our second year at Big River Farm, and really looking forward to the information today. Kind of keeping up with the invoicing and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Other person I see that I don't think has gone yet is Adil Mohammed. Do you want to introduce yourself and say hi to everybody?
Hello, everybody. My name is Adil Khalil, part of Farming Group. This is our first year, and we are so excited. Seems like we're going to learn a lot. And thank you guys so much for the opportunity to let us in and learn something. Thank you.
Great, thanks. I think we got everybody. Thank you for your introductions and for being here. I'm going to share my screen and go through what the process looks like on our end and your end as we collaborate throughout the season on invoicing for these different markets. Like I said, we're primarily talking tonight about CSA, our community supported agriculture program at Big River Farms, and the new local food for every table food shelf purchasing program, which is kind of an evolution of the farm to food bank program that existed the past few years if you're a returning Big River Farms farmer. And if not, it might be brand new to you. So it's a supplemental program to sell produce that you might not have either an independent market for or a CSA contract for with Big River Farms. So I'll touch on both of those throughout the evening. And give me 1 second here, I'll share my screen with you. Wanted to share a document with you that our operations manager, Tom, created that kind of walks through the process of what that might look like on a weekly basis to give you some insight. So bear with me here 1 second. Okay, can everyone see that Word document that I just shared?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So we'll start with the local food for every table food shelf purchasing program. Like I said, this is a new program this year, kind of an evolution of a program that existed the past few years. Like I said, it's a supplemental market opportunity for you as a farmer to sell any produce that you don't have an existing market for, whether it's your own CSA program, your own farmers market vendor permit, sales directly to your community or external wholesale partners you might have, or food that is not on contract with the Big River Farms CSA program. We hosted an info session about this maybe a month or so back, month and a half ago, with our old sourcing coordinator, Danielle, before she left for another job at another company. But reach out to me after this if you have any questions about this program. We've got an FAQ document that kind of goes through step by step what the sourcing and purchasing will look like for this new program, as well as some of the invoicing and packing and delivery questions you might have. So we've got that document and then a pricing guide for that program, as well as a preferred produce list that Danielle created before she rolled off. If you came to that info session, you might have remembered meeting Primrose, or Prim for short. She is our new sourcing coordinator, and she'll be the main contact person when you submit weekly offers of produce to her for sale to our food sales partners that we work with throughout the cities. So again, let me know after this class. Reach out to me by email or phone if you have more questions about what that program looks like. Or if you haven't received those documents, the FAQ documents, the preferred produce list, and the pricing list, I can definitely send those out again as a follow-up from this. But tonight we really wanted to focus on what the purchase and accounting and invoicing process looks like for this new program. So like I said, our sourcing coordinator, Prim, is kind of be the lead or the point person that you'll get in contact with every week. She'll need to hear from you by noon on Monday each week to know what you might have for sale to this food sales program. So we can work together at Big River Farms when we're physically at the farm together. If you have questions about how to do harvest estimates or weekly field walks to get a good guide of how much produce you might have available that week that's not going to another market you already have contracts for or vendor permits for. It looks like maybe one more person just tried to join us here. So I'm going to check on that real quick. Okay, it looks like everybody who has joined has been entered into the waiting room and is here. So like I was saying, our sourcing coordinator is going to be the main person who you'll be communicating with on a weekly basis by noon on Mondays to let her know what you have available. And then she'll get back to you by Monday afternoon and let you know what she's able to purchase for the food shelf, depending on their needs and their capacity. And that'll change from week to week based on, you know, again, the food shelf partners and their the community members that utilize their services and what their needs might be from week to week. And it also will probably change based on just what you have available on a weekly basis. So there's kind of a weekly bidding process where you'll need to either call or email Prim, the sourcing coordinator, and tell her what you have. She hasn't done this yet, but on her to-do list for this program, she's going to create a blanket purchase order number for each of you who have been allocated funding for this food self-purchasing program. So unlike CSA, which if you've participated in the past, you might be familiar with. There's a different purchase order number for every week that we buy food from you for CSA. But for this program, for this food shelf program, you'll just have one purchase order number for the entire season. And that purchase order number will show up on that physical purchase order that you get from Prim each week for food shelf deliveries or sourcing for this food shelf purchase program. And that's partially because this program is funded by grant money and private donor money that we as an organization, as the food group, have received. So we already have kind of a pot of money allocated to this specific program for purchasing food from you for distribution to our food shelf partners. And like I mentioned before, each of you who are physically farming at Big River this season should have received communication over email and through Slack about how much funding you have based on the amount of land that you're farming. So if you need a reminder about that, feel free to reach out to me after this meeting and we can discuss that further too. But basically, you'll get one purchase order number for the entire season because the funding's all allocated up front. And there can be some changes throughout the season if any additional funding comes in, and we'll inform you about that. But right now, you should have that number that was already shared with you based on the amount of land that you'll be farming on at Big River Farms this season. So what the weekly process will look like. After you submit that bid, either verbally or over email to Prim by noon each Monday, like I said, she'll get back to you by Monday afternoon and let you know what she's able to purchase from you for the food shelf program. And we're still working with the food group operations and delivery teams to figure out what day they'll be coming to Big River Farms to pick up those food shelf harvests. I think right now it's looking like Thursday might be the best bet, but nothing's set in stone yet for that. But they will be sending a driver from our New Hope Food Bank location to the farm in Marino St. Croix to pick up those harvests once a week. So if you participated in past years in the Farm to Food Bank programs, that's one of the major differences this season is that it's not happening twice a week, it's happening once a week instead. So stay tuned for what day that pickup will be, which will determine what day you'll want to do your harvest for the food shelf. So once all that happens, once you do that like weekly bid process, once you talk with Prim and receive confirmation back from her on what she can purchase from you, you'll harvest and pack the produce based on the wholesale packing standards and weigh each item for delivery. And Jeannie will talk about this a little bit more in depth as we go throughout the training discussion tonight. But you'll create a packing slip and invoice to record everything that you've harvested and are turning in for the food shelf program. So it will include your name, that kind of blanket farm purchase order number for the food shelf program, a description of the item, so the type and quantity of produce that you've agreed with Prim will be purchased for that week for the food shelf partners, the weight or quantity of each produce item, a date, and this next bullet point says sold to. That's basically the vendor or who you're selling the food to. So because we're purchasing it as an organization directly from you with, like I said, grant funding and private donor money, the customer, the sold to vendor listed on that purchase order will just be us, the food group. So we're basically using the money that we already have to pay you for your food and your time and resources, and then using food group resources to distribute it for free to all of these food shelf partners so that community members who utilize these food shelves have access to it. So the sold to will always be the food group on that invoice for weekly food shelf purchases. And then this is important, and you might be familiar with this process if you've sold to Big River Farms in the past, either through CSA or Farm to Food Bank. If you're using paper invoices, there's usually a couple carbon copies in that physical paper invoice book. And you'll want to be sure to keep one for yourself, just for your own farm records, and then give one to us so that we have it when the delivery driver comes to pick up those produce items for distribution to the food shelf partners. This year, it's really important to turn in all invoices at the time of turning in your harvest for the coolers at Big River Farms. So I know in the past, there was some more leeway on that, but this year, we really want to make sure that anytime you turn in harvest for either CSA or for this food sales program, that you're turning in an invoice at the same time. And I know that's been tricky in past years if you're a returning farmer, because I know a preference of a lot of folks was to turn in that invoice physically to, like hand it physically to a farm staff member, which could often be tricky if you might be at the farm like later in the evening harvesting or early in the morning when staff isn't available. So new this year, in addition to requiring an invoice being turned in with any harvest for CSA or the food sales program, we're planning to buy 2 secure mailboxes, and we'll put one out in the pack bed, so like right there by the main cooler and by the pack bed, and one in the entryway of the office, the farm office building, where each of you have those individual mailboxes as well. So the hope is that you'll be able to just put that invoice that's all filled out into one of those secure mailboxes, and they'll be locked and secure so that invoices don't go accidentally missing. And then we as staff will have access to them when the delivery driver comes to make the pickup each week for the food sales program. So again, multiple copies. You'll keep one copy of the invoice for yourself, the packing slip invoice for yourself, and then you'll turn one in for our use. After that, one of the farm staff members will sign a copy of the invoice that you've turned in and place into the mailbox, either in the pack bed or in the farm office entry. And that's just a way for us to double check and make sure that what you've written on the invoice matches what was on the purchase order, and kind of cross-reference between the two to make sure we're not missing any produce items and that the math all adds up correctly for the price per item and the total that's being paid out. So a staff member will do that check, and then one of us will give those packing slip invoices to the delivery driver. Part of the reason why we're requiring you all as farmers to turn in invoices at the time of anything that's harvested and turned in is for a few reasons. One, because we want to make sure that we're paying you on time and that things aren't being delayed by weeks or months. Two, because our delivery drivers need to have a record of everything that they're packing onto the truck in case they get pulled over while making deliveries. They need to physically know what they're hauling and where it's going. So that's important from a legality standpoint. And three, because when you're working with external wholesale buyers in the future, as you're growing your farm business, this is kind of a best rule or a best practice that a lot of wholesalers will require. So when you're creating relationships and partnerships with other potential buyers, whether it's a school or a hospital or a grocery store or any other wholesale partner, they'll usually require this packing slip and invoice with any deliveries you make, whether it's on contract or whether it's a flexible kind of purchase agreement. So we just want to educate and inform you and provide that information so that you kind of get into the habit and routine of doing it. So as you grow your business in the future, you kind of know what other folks are expecting from a buyer perspective too. So like I said, we'll give those signed invoices and packing slips to the delivery driver, and they will bring all of the food for the food sales program and all of those invoices that have been signed to the food bank warehouse that the food group has in New Hope, which is about an hour west of Big River Farms. New Hope is a northwestern burb of Minneapolis, and that's where our big food bank warehouse is. So they'll bring all of your food there, which will then be redistributed or repacked and given to over 20 food sales partners throughout the Twin Cities. Like I mentioned before, Prim, who's our new sourcing coordinator, she'll collect those packing slip invoices and she'll create item receipts, which is basically just another way to make a check in our accounting software to show that what they received at the warehouse in New Hope matches what you said you harvested and matches what was on that original purchase order. So it's just another accountability measure to make sure everything is matching up and that nothing's missing. And then those packing slips, like I said, Jeannie will talk about this a little bit more, but we're trying to use packing slips and invoices as the same piece of paper, just to make things easier across the board for all of us, for you as farmers and for us as staff. But when you're working with an external wholesale buyer in the future, those might be two separate documents or pieces of paper. So Jeannie will go into that a little bit more, but this last step is saying that those will be scanned in individually and submitted to Jeannie or to the accounting department to make sure that you're getting paid on a weekly basis. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick and just open it up and ask if there's questions, because I know that was a lot of detailed information that we just ran through. So does anyone have any questions about that process? Feel free, as Jeannie and I are talking to throw anything into the chat box if you have questions, and we'll keep coming back and saving some time between sections and at the end if folks have additional questions. Did you have anything you wanted to ask, Veda, or are you just coming on video to say hey? Okay. So that's the basic weekly process for food sales, sourcing, purchase orders, pickup and deliveries, and invoicing. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about CSA, which is fairly similar. And if you've participated in CSA in the past, the process is basically the same. But I just wanted to give some more insights into what that looks like behind the scenes. So I'm going to share my screen again here. Here's a sample packing slip and invoice. Jeannie will talk about this a little bit more in a few minutes, but basically it has a sold to field where you would write the food group and the address, a shipping to if there's a different location that it's being shipped to, the customer number or the purchase order number is that next box, and then the date. And down below is basically a large space for you to write down the quantity that was ordered of any produce item. And then the description is where you would write the type of produce and how it was packed, either per bunch, per pound, per head, depending on the type of produce that it is. This packing slip and invoice example doesn't have this field shown, but usually it'll also have a spot on the far right-hand side next to the description that lists pricing. So you'll want to make sure for each produce item to list the description, what it is, the quantity, how much, and then the price per item. And you can use the Big River Farms Food Hub price list as a guide to that. If you need a copy of that, let me know. I can print off a paper copy or email you a digital copy. There's also a physical copy of it printed and hanging in the pack shed right next to the cooler on the chalkboard there. So you can reference that throughout the season. But make sure to write the type, the quantity, the price of each individual item that was ordered, and then tally up all of those prices at the bottom to list the total quantity and the total price being paid. Okay, CSA. CSA process, like I said, is the same as the last few years. I'm the market specialist. I'll be creating those weekly CSA purchase orders in QuickBooks and then communicating with each of you the types of produce and the quantities that we'd like to buy. Unlike the food shelf program, CSA is all done on contract. Or I should say our preference is to do it on contract, and we've created those CSA contracts already. So when May and I do our weekly field walk and harvest estimates, we're bringing printouts of those CSA contracts that we've already created with you as farmers physically farming at Big River. And that's what we look for when we're walking through the fields each Tuesday. Typically, I'll say on any given week, just because of the variability of farming and weather, pests, climate change, all sorts of stuff, there might be a maximum of 50 to 60% of what's on contract actually available the following week to purchase for CSA. Or it could just be that things aren't growing as quickly as maybe we thought they would be because of when seeds were started or if there's a drought or a whole host of reasons. So there is some flexibility there. Every week we prioritize those items that are on CSA contracts, but we will make follow-up phone calls to confirm what we saw on the field walk and ask if there's things we saw that weren't on contract, if you'd be willing to sell it to us for CSA specifically. So I'll create those purchase orders based on the field walk, the harvest estimates, and those confirmation phone calls, and the contract. And then you will receive a hard copy, a printed copy of the purchase order, and a digital copy. I'll email a digital copy to you as well. Those physical copies I'll print out and put in your mailboxes in the farm office entry. So then you'll have those each week. Typically, we're about a week out. We plan a week in advance for CSA. So May and I do that field walk and harvest estimate on Tuesdays, and that informs the purchases for the following week for CSA packing. So by Friday each week, you'll receive a CSA purchase order from me if we're buying food from you for CSA for the following week. And then going into the next week, you'll know by Monday morning what you've already sold if you go to farmers markets, what we would like to purchase from you for CSA, what you have for other independent markets, and then what might be left over for the food shelf program for that week. And once you get those purchase orders, again, harvest anything that's been confirmed for purchase. Typically, that'll happen on Tuesdays because we do our weekly packing and deliveries on Wednesdays for CSA, and you want to harvest close to that day to keep things as fresh as possible. So either Monday or Tuesday are ideal. And again, once you harvest and clean and turn in that produce, it'll be put on the center pallet in the main pack fed cooler with the respective labels that list your name, the market that it's going to, the quantity of produce and the type of produce. And new this year, I'll say for CSA, because we're returning from a customized model to a more traditional model, you'll need to write down on the invoice and on the tote label when you turn produce into the cooler for CSA, whether it's harvested for full stairs or half stairs. And that'll help us with packing on Wednesday mornings, knowing where things need to be placed along the assembly lines to pack boxes and what's going into what size stair. So keep an eye out on your purchase orders this year for CSA. We'll list which produce item and how much of each one that we want, and it'll also list whether it's for full or half size CSA stairs. Again, similar to the food sales program, you'll use that packing slip and invoice as the same thing and turn that in with any produce harvest at the same time, either to one of us as farm staff or into those secure mailboxes, which will be in the pack fed or the farm office entryway. You may have heard that Jessie was our program coordinator, recently rolled out of her position and moved to New York with her partner. So we're in the process of interviewing and hiring a new administrative assistant for the farm. And in the meantime, before they start, if we start getting into the CSA and food shelf purchasing season, I'll kind of be the point person as the market specialist, working with you on both the purchase order and the invoice side of things. But the hope is once we hire the new admin assistant, they'll be the point person collecting those invoices from you or from the mailboxes each week for both CSA and the food sales program. And then they put those into QuickBooks, into our accounting software, and create that item receipt, which I mentioned before for the food sales program, just as an accountability check to say what we ordered was turned in and that it was received. And then the admin assistant at the farm will be in charge of scanning those all in and emailing them to Kaju and Jeannie for payment approval. So that's kind of what that process looks like. Fairly similar. Yeah, Andres, go ahead.
Bye, Matt. Hopefully next time we'll have some action. See ya.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andres.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, I'll open it back up for any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to pass it off to Jeannie, who's going to share examples of what a purchase order and invoice looks like and a digital template that she created new this year for your use.
Just bear with me while I get my screen sharing abilities working. We'll start with this one then. So can you all see my screen? This is an example of a purchase order. This one is actually from last year, and it was
I'm not seeing your screen, Jeannie.
Oh, well. Huh. Now, can you
Yeah.
see it?
Nope. Do you have that share screen option at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, just click on that.
There we
Yeah.
go. It looks like it popped up.
Sorry.
All good. Thanks, Jeannie.
I don't excel at technology. Sorry. So this is an example of a purchase order that we issued to Mompa last fall. It was for CSA, and it was for some fennel, onions, and lemongrass. And this is what Matt will be issuing on a weekly basis. And then we have two options for packing slip / invoice. The first option is electronic that Matt will share with you guys. The first page is where you're going to put your vendor name. So that's the name of your organization. And that equals the name on your W-9. It equals the name on your bank account, which equals the name that I have in QuickBooks. One name that you should use the whole season. No matter who's turning it in, we need that one name on here. And then on the second page is Matt's price list. And that all comes in onto this page. So we ordered 150 units of fennel, and the unit price is $225. And then it'll automatically multiply column B times column D and get the total amount. It'll drop in the pounds per unit, and it'll also drop in the number of units and the unit price, the pounds per unit, and then it'll calculate the total pounds. So if I grab another item on that purchase order, it was lemongrass. So if we click right here, we do the drop down, we scroll down till we see lemongrass, and we ordered, maybe we ordered 100, and we type that in right here, and it does all the math for you. It calculates the total amount due, and it calculates the total pounds. And once this is complete, you would need to type in your vendor name, your address, your city and state, phone, fax, and email number. And then the sold to is always going to be the food group. And then our address is right here. In the notes section, we're going to note if it's CSA or the LFET. And then the ship to is the food group Minnesota, and the food group truck pickup. So the truck's going to come pick it up at the farm. So you're identifying all those items that Matt had talked about before. You have your vendor information here. You have a ship date right here. So that's the day you pack it and put it in the pack shed. You're going to always have a different invoice number. Kind of want to make those sequential. So if you're at 1111, you're going to go, the following invoice is going to be 112. And then you're going to have your blanket purchase order number for that Matt gave you, your not your blanket purchase order, but your purchase order that Matt gave you on a weekly basis. And then normal terms are net 30 days. So that means you're going to be paid within 30 days of when it's received, within 30 days of the invoice date. And then at the bottom, it's going to calculate the total amount due. And then you can put your name and phone and email down here too, if you would like just additional information, and you can customize this however you want. Like in the vendor name in this section, the email address is good because then if we have a question on the invoice / packing slip, then we can drop an email to you or give you a call. Then the address is on here, so we know we always have a current address for mailing the check out to you. Packing slip, invoice, so it's doing duty of two things. We're making a packing slip and an invoice all in one, instead of having a packing slip and then having an invoice, which repeats a lot of the same information. And it's something that you will need going forward, like Matt said. So this is kind of nice because it does everything automatic. You can print this out and put it in the mailbox, like Matt said, or you can send, I believe, to you, Matt, right? A PDF of it, and then you would save a PDF copy for yourself. And to do that, you would just go File, Save As. Then you're gonna do this drop down and find PDF. Find the place you want to save it on your computer. BFR packing slip invoice CSA, that's what I'm going to call it. And then I have it saved there. A lot of times when you're saving it, you're going to want to put down the invoice number. Then if you ever have any questions, you can get back to it fairly easily. I would put invoice number, invoice date, and the amount due. So that's for the CSA shares, the electronic packing slip. Now we've historically had a paper packing slip. See if I grabbed the wrong one. Oh, this one. A paper packing slip, which looks similar to this. Matt sent me a copy of it. This is what it looks like. It's a book. It's got 2 copies, and then the top copy copies to the second copy. And so you want to keep the second copy for your records. And what I did come up with is I put it in Excel, but this is like if I was typing on paper. It has an invoice. Then if you could just write packing slip right next to it, it comes with an invoice number already for you. You're selling it to the food group. That's our address. The ship to is the food group, and then the food group truck pickup. That's how you're going to get it to us, or you're going to ship it to us via our truck. Then you're going to have your sorry, that is not true. You're going to ship it to Big River Farms, right? Because you're already there and that's where it's going to. Sorry about that. That was for this, the LFET one. You're going to use the purchase order number from the PO that Matt issued you. So you're always going to want to keep that on hand so you have it. And then I think Matt was going to print out a list of the purchase orders so you guys can know what was ordered and find your purchase order number there. You want to put your vendor name in this box. It says sold to, but we're going to try and make that the vendor name. The customer order number is the purchase order number. Terms is net 30. The notes section, or the FOB, we're going to put the CSA, because that's what we're selling this as, not LFET. In the note section, you want to distinguish between CSA and LFET. You're going to put the date. And then in the ordered, we're going to put the number of units that you're selling to us, the number of units you're shipping to us or delivering to us. In the shipped column, we're going to put pounds per unit. Description is fennel. Price is the unit price, how much it's sold at. Unit total pounds, so that's 113. You're going to have to take the number of units times the pounds per unit, and that will give you your total pounds. And then in the amount column, you're going to have to take the number of units times the total pounds. And then if the next item was onions, so we do 100, and the pounds per unit is 0.30. The description would be onions, yellow. The price per unit is $2.25. I'm sorry, it's $1.50. I used the fennel price. And then the total pounds, you're going to have to do math. You're going to have to do the number of units times the pounds per unit to get your total pounds. And in the amount, you're going to have to take the quantity times the unit price. And then you just continue filling it out like that. And I think Matt can post a copy of this in the pack shed so that everybody knows the few columns that are different. Like we know that the customer order number is where we put the purchase order number. We know sold by is vendor name. We need FOB as notes. That's where you're going to note CSA or LFET. In the order number, number of units. Shipped is pounds per unit. The descriptions that's as is. The price is as is, the unit price of the item. The unit's going to be total pounds, and then the amount, the total amount of that line. And then you're going to need to add that whole thing up for every purchase and put the total at the bottom. And then when Matt receives this, he's going to get this. You're going to give him the paper copy. He's going to sign off. Yes, I received everything on here. Then he's going to take it and put that item receipt in QuickBooks, and then he's going to scan a copy to accounts payable. Then we'll match this up to the item receipt and it'll get paid. I have another example of the LFET one that I'll go through with you. So here's the paper packing slip for LFET. I'm gonna try and get, one moment. Somehow I saved over my LFET one. Sorry, guys. But it'll be a packing slip just like our purchase order that you'll get from Prim. It'll look just like this one. It won't say received in full. It'll have a PO number, and the item is just going to be BFR local produce. And right here, it's going to be LFET. And then you're going to get a total dollar amount to spend. Like say it's going to be $10,000 or $500 that you have to spend on local produce for the whole growing season. Prim can go in if we get additional funding, like Matt noted, and increase that $500, say that's what it was, to $1,000 because we got some additional funding either through a grant or through private donors. So this is an example of the LFET packing slip. Again, the same information. It says invoice, the hard copy, a paper copy. You're going to want to put packing slip right next to it. Comes with the invoice number right there in the upper right corner. Sold to is the food group. And then again, in the address line, you're shipping it to the food group via the food group truck. And you're going to want to note that purchase order number from that blanket PO. And I think Matt said he was going to print out all the blanket purchase order numbers so they're in the pack shed so you guys can have that right at hand. And you want to use the vendor name as the same name on your bank account is the same name that I have in QuickBooks. You just want to make sure that matches. And then the terms are standard as net 30. And then in the notes or FOB column, you're going to put the program, either CSA or LFET. This is LFET. The date that you filled this out. And again, the number of units. So we had 50. Pounds per unit is 1, and they're green beans. Price per unit, and then you got the total pounds where you're going to have to take the pounds per unit times the number of units. And then for the total amount, you're going to have to take the unit price times the number of units. And then you're going to have to put a total at the bottom of it. On the flip side, we have the electronic one. And then Matt can email this out to everybody so that they have a copy of it if they want to go this route. Again, you're going to have same information as before. Your vendor name, which should equal your name that's on your bank account, which should equal the name that you put on your W-9, which should equal the name I have in QuickBooks. Just one name you're going to use consistently throughout the year. Then your information, we have packing slip invoice right here. Your ship to date, you're going to want to change your invoice number each time. You can leave the PO number, and then the standard terms is net 30. That means we will pay you within 30 days of receiving the invoice. You're sold to the food group. In the notes section, you're going to put left because that's the purchase. Local food bank. What is it called, Matt? Local food bank. Every table.
Local food for every table. Yeah, that's the acronym for the food shelf program.
And the ship to is the food group Minnesota, and then the truck is going to pick it up. And so we have 50 units. The green beans, I'm just going to make another example here. We'll go with basil. We're going to have 10 of those. And look at that, it fills in all the other columns for you. It fills in the total, it fills in the unit price, the pounds per unit, and then the total pounds. Then you can print this to a PDF or print out the paper and put it in a secure mailbox, and it calculates the total for you down here. And it's really important to have the total pounds because that's required by law when we're transporting goods in our trucks. And so they need to know what it is, and they need to know the total pounds that we have that is going on the truck. And so that's why one of the biggest reasons we have to have this in advance, and why not just get it submitted as an invoice, is we need to have that information on the truck. In case they ever get pulled over, they have to be able to prove what's in the truck. So those are the purchase order and the packing slips for you guys. Now, what am I supposed to do, Matt?
Thanks, Jenny. I just wanted to clarify too for folks on the call, whether you're a returning farmer or a new farmer this season, there's basically, like Jenny just presented, two main ways that you can turn in these kind of combined packing slip invoices each week, whether it's for CSA or for the food shelf program. And basically it's up to you, whatever you're most comfortable with, whatever's the easiest for you based on whether you have access to a computer or technology. You can either use that paper copy if it's easier to just handwrite things down, and you can buy those from us through the farm store at Big River Farms. Or if we don't have any in stock, you can purchase them through some local vendors that we can connect you with. Or if you prefer to do it digitally, you can use that fancy new Excel spreadsheet packing slip invoice template that Jeannie created for either market, for CSA or for the food shelf program, and then either print out a copy for us, or you can email a copy to me and our new admin assistant for CSA, or to me and Prim for the food shelf program. So I just wanted to clarify that you don't have to do both for both markets. Just choose one or the other, whichever is easiest and most convenient for you. Partially, we're doing that because we wanted to create two options: a hard copy analog version and a digital option. And also because in the past we've had farmers who have gone the digital route, but we wanted to try and standardize that and make a template for everybody to use, and make it a little bit easier across the board for both farmers and staff to use and receive those digital copies as well. So just want to provide some clarity there. The final thing I had on the agenda, Jeannie, was you already touched on both of these a little bit, but talking about the W-9 forms and just any month-end best practices from your standpoint for accounting as far as grant tracking or getting the books in order and making sure that we have all of the invoices for the month from farmers for different markets.
Thanks for that reminder, Matt. First, I'm going to touch on the importance of why we need bills submitted in a timely manner. Every month, once a month, we do a snapshot of how the food group is doing financially. And during that process, we want to have all the bills all the product that we've bought from people, have the bills submitted so that we can record that in that month so that we can review it and know, oh, we have this much left to spend on these different things. We've budgeted $5,000. Our year is 12 months long. After 6 months, we've spent $6,000. So we have $6,000 left to spend. Or, we can look at it and say, oh, we've spent all that money. But if we don't have those bills submitted and those item receipts in, we're not going to know where we are, and we can't make decisions. Like, we can't decide if we want to buy more produce because we don't know what the balances are left on the purchase orders because those bills haven't been submitted. That's what I really want to point out, is why the month end is so important, is because we make decisions based on those numbers that I create. And if they're inaccurate, then we're making inaccurate decisions. We're not making educated decisions. They're just based on things that don't exist. Like we have in the past, it's been really difficult to know what has been spent at the farm or other places when we don't have the invoices. So it's kind of our new policy. We're requiring invoices in the month that you sold us the product to get copies of those invoices within that month. And so the best way we figured for you guys to do it, get that packing slip, since we have to have that for the truck to bring it over here, have the invoice submitted right at the same time, make it one document. And that's also for CSA shares. We're going to have the one document and you have to submit it right away with the product when you're putting it in the pack shed. So that kind of goes over why we have to be so stringent about month end and our practices, why we do that and why I get so excited and I need the bills. That's why, because we can't make decisions based on the numbers if we don't have the correct numbers. That's my soapbox for that one. And then the W-9 tax form. I just want to make sure that the tax return name, what the name you're putting on your W-9 is the same as the name when you're filing taxes on your tax return, which is the same name as your bank account, which is the same name you're going to put on your W-9, which is the same name that I have in QuickBooks as your vendor name. And it's just very important to be consistent all throughout. Sometimes I'll get letters from the IRS stating that the name that is on the W-9 does not match the name that is on the tax return. And then I have to go through this whole process and there's penalties and things that go along with that. So we want to make sure everything matches. You want the tax return name to be the same as the bank account name, to be the same as what's on the W-9, and then what's on the W-9 is what I put into our accounting software, and then that's what your check is issued to. Then when you bring it to the bank, it's going to match and you're going to have no problems cashing that check. And again, like we said, you need to have packing slips to be there for the truck, and the warehouse needs them so that they can receive the items in and everything flows along nicely. And if for legal reasons, we need to have those pounds and the number of units and what's on the truck. And if you choose the electronic version, remember, you can always print it to PDF, save a copy of that for yourself, send a copy to Matt. Or if you do the paper version, you hand write that out, you keep the duplicate copy for yourself, you put the white one in the mailbox. And if you decide to print out the electronic version, that's fine too. Just put that in the mailbox and make sure you keep a copy for yourself. Any questions you have for me? Anybody?
I'll just add one thing to what you just said, Jeannie. Again, it's up to you what makes the most sense from your perspective as a farmer and as a business owner. But either choose your personal name, or if you have a business name incorporated for your farm, you can choose that as well. But like Jeannie said, just make sure that whichever one you choose, whether it's your personal name or your business name, that you use it consistently across all those documents, the W-9, your bank account where your checks are going to be deposited, your vendor profile that we're creating, the invoices that you turn in. Just make sure to use the same either personal name or business name. And again, like Jeannie said, that's for accounting purposes and tax purposes, but also, as she alluded to in the past, we've had issues where we've had multiple vendor accounts for the same vendor in our accounting software. And farmers have received payments from us, received checks from us with their personal name because that's what was on the invoices and that was in our accounting software. But then their bank accounts and their taxes were filed using their business name. So there have been issues in the past where those things haven't been consistent, and then farmers either can't cash those checks or deposit them into their bank account because the names don't match up, or they get stuff back during tax time saying that there's errors because of those inconsistencies. So just wanted to provide some clarity on why that consistency is so important so that you can get paid and so that taxes are done correctly at the end of the year too. One side note for that is I think a majority of folks have already turned in W-9s for this season, but I know at least 2 farmers who are in their first year are still in the process of registering their farm's business name. So I would say if you are one of those people and you already submitted a W-9 with your personal name, but you'd like to use your incorporated business name for your farm on your new business bank account where your checks are being cashed, be sure to submit a new W-9 with that business name so that we have that on our end too for the accounting software and for creating checks for you.
And then let us know which account you can close because we only want to have one account open. So if you are one of those farmers, we're going to want to close that personal account and enter your business account.
I got a question.
Yeah, go for it, Nathaniel.
So in the W-9 I ask you for your name, then your business name. I mean, I did put both, but I am going, I'm separating my, I guess, the personal and the business. So when it comes to the farm, it's all about my business account. So when I put my name in the business, are you going by the business name or my actual name? Because that's why I put the business EIN on there.
Yep.
Because I would like to go with the business instead.
So if you put an EIN number down instead of your social security number, I'm going to go with your business name. If you put a business name in your social security number down, I'm going to go with your personal name. Does that make sense?
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. Thanks, Nathaniel.
Yeah, great question.
Question again. So is it because we are group? How can we do this as a community group, the Sudanese community group, an individual one?
You can answer this too, Ginny, but I would guess that if Sudanese of Minnesota is incorporated through the state, I'm not sure if you've done that process yet or not. I would say if you have and you've registered the business name to use that and the EIN number on the W-9 form like Jeannie and Nathaniel were just talking about. Otherwise, if that hasn't been done, I would say choose a point person from your group. And that one farmer could submit a W-9 with their personal name and social security number. And then that would be the main person who would be submitting invoices and receiving payment checks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything, Jeannie?
Yeah, I would highly recommend getting a tax ID number in that case. Or individually set up accounts. What do you think about that, Matt? Because you don't want somebody else's funds on your tax return, and that's what would happen because they're all going to be issued in that name. So you can't really share an account like that. But if you have a company, then that person, whoever is getting that payment, can issue payments to others and file it as a business expense.
So ideally go
Actually,
the business name route. Oh, go ahead, Beta.
see, they probably have a Sudanese, Association of Minnesota, Farmers Association of Minnesota. So the EIN can be for that. And then depending upon what each farmer is charging, then, the farmers can invoice Sudanese Minnesota and they can deal with that. Because that way, as a group, you have to deal only with one and they can adjust because it's multiple farmers and very small quantities. So they can adjust among themselves. So that's an easier conversation. And then because they're submitting invoices to Sudanese and everything, so when they move on to their farms, they just go separately with all the setups complete. So it's a practice for each one of them. So each one of them. And then for Big River and Food Group, you don't have to get into the details and then figure out where did the tax get mixed up. So those things can be removed.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for the input. You're correct. So we are in the process and we're trying to think through the different options. But yeah, we're in the process of registering the Sudanese group as a business entity, as an LLC. And then we'll try and figure out how we're going to do it among ourselves. I don't know if like a communal thing is just like a Sudanese community and just one invoice from us. And then we figure it out. It's only like 4 or 5 of us as of now. So it should be easy to figure it out. If it gets more complex and there's more people, then there might be more. But I wanted to get like other people who also registered their farms. Did you guys do a nonprofit or a for-profit?
I did it for profit because it's only one individual, but yours can be non-profit, and the other farmers charging to you, they can be for profit. Because then as they separate the business out, they can take the income, take the history, all of it for their documentation for the farmers market in future.
Okay, makes sense.
And then the Sudanese group of Minnesota, you like with what revenue you have, you can also share that to get a place in the farmers market in future. Combined revenue.
Sure. Yeah, and Matt and Jenny, and yeah, we'll give you our EIN number and official number in the next couple of days or so.
There's a big form you have to fill out to become a 501c3. And that means you're non-exempt or you're a nonprofit. I want to say it's like 15, 20 pages long. So if you haven't done that, and it takes quite a while to get approved, and if you haven't done that yet, then I would go with not being a nonprofit, then fill out those forms, and so that you can become a nonprofit eventually.
Sure. Yeah. For this first year, we'll do the easy one, just for profit LLC. And then for the future, maybe we'll think about the nonprofit. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Khalid. And thanks for the input, Veda and Jeannie, too. I saw Whitney just put a message in the chat, too, about exploring fiscal sponsorships through a group called Propel Nonprofit. So that's another option, too, or an interim step that you could check out, Khalid. But if you want to chat more, Khalid, feel free to reach out to me after this class, too, and we can talk about things. I know the Sudanese of Minnesota is farming at the micro farm at our New Hope location. So that might make it a little easier to just harvest things and give them directly to folks at the warehouse for the food sales program. But let's follow up after this class and talk through what that might look like. Any other questions from folks before we wrap things up? If not, we can definitely end 10 minutes early. We're at about 7:20 right now. Like Jeannie said, I'll post the blanket purchase orders for everybody in the PACSED once Prim creates those for the food shelf program, so you can reference those throughout the season when you're creating those invoices. And look for weekly purchase order numbers on the purchase orders you get for CSA. Like I said, the pricing list for all the produce is already up. It's in the PACSED. But I can definitely print out copies of those and give them to you, or email you a digital copy. I will email everybody a copy of that packing slip invoice template spreadsheet that Jeannie created, so you have that. And if you want to buy paper invoice books, come talk with one of us, one of the staff members at the farm office. I think we've got maybe 3 or 4 left in the farm store right now, but let us know if you want to purchase one, or we can connect you with a local source for buying those too. And again, feel free to come speak with me in person when I'm at the farm, or shoot me an email or a message on Slack if you have any follow-up questions. And we can definitely keep chatting throughout the season too, as things pop up once all of this kicks into high gear in June, and we start harvesting and buying stuff for different markets.
One note, it's a 1023 form that you have to fill out. Application for recognition of exemption through the IRS.
Cool. If there's no other questions, we can end. Thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This was very useful. Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
Matt.
Yeah, I saw
Thanks,
Dee just put a
Jeannie.
message in the chat box too about buying invoice books at Office Max or similar office supply stores. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Matt.
Bye.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Awesome. Great Excel spreadsheet.